explore AI. It's okay to give everything a try. And, using AI voices, using high quality can really increase the engagement and the professionalism of your videos. And if you want more learner retention in terms of the topics that you're talking about, the audio is quite important. So spend the extra time or a little bit of extra budget on that in order to kind of get the best video and the most professional video you can.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you're watching from. And glad that you're here today with the Visual Lounge. I'm so excited about today because we're talking about some new research that we've just are about to release, or when time you see this, it will be released. And it's very exciting about using AI voices. And one of the things that's true about AI voices is I know there's a lot of questions, right? Like, should I use AI voices in my instructional design, my training, my marketing, whatever? But we don't have all the answers, but we have some interesting insights that we want to share. And I am so excited to share them because it got me thinking differently about how I might use AI voices, when I might use them, and just really apply things. So I want to introduce our guest today. I want to welcome to the Visual Lounge, Stephanie Warnoff. Stephanie is a senior marketing researcher for TechSmith. Stephanie, welcome.
Hello, thanks, Matt.
Stephanie, why don't you just take a second and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I am a senior market researcher, as Matt said, and I have worked at TechSmith for almost 16 years now. It's kind of surprising, but I actually went to school to study market research. So what I do here at TechSmith is I basically help our business make data-driven decisions. So instead of people sitting in a room and deciding where to go with Snagit, where to go with Camtasia, how much to charge, what features to put in, we actually ask our customers, our users, people who could be our potential customers, those questions. So I do that through mainly surveys, sometimes interviews, focus groups, online communities, basically all different ways when we can contact people to kind of make sure that their opinions are heard and that we go the right direction with what we're doing as a company. So if you've ever received a survey from us, it was probably 90% chance that it was written and the email was sent by me. So
yeah. And one of the things that Stephanie, I think will point out is if you've ever heard me talk about like the video viewer study and that research about how long should videos be and what types of attributes a video make for a good video from a viewer preferences standpoint, you have helped with all of that research as well.
I have. Yep. Yeah, that's great. We've done that several times now. We'll probably be on track to do that again, either late this year or early next year. So that's exciting. It's always fun to refresh that. And I'll be interested to kind of incorporate some new AI elements into that, which we haven't really touched on in the past, especially with the explosion of that. That will be certainly something that we want to find out about, with as Matt's lead in here with the AI voice and AI avatar study that we recently did at the end of last year.
Yeah. So Stephanie, let's dive into this new research. Tell us a little, give us the context and the setup for what we're about to learn about.
Sure. So in this study, we created a very short 45-ish second how-to video on using Google Advanced Search. So our research team kind of tried to come up with a concept for a screen and voice video where we could kind of explain something quickly, but not something so simple that everyone already knew how to do, like how to Google something, just straight up is pretty easy. People already know how to do that, but we wanted to kind of teach them a little bit more in depth about it. So we came up with using Google Advanced Search. So there's one, like I said, 45-second video, and the screen content is exactly the same, but the only thing that changed is the voice quality. So we had 4 different versions of this video. One is a human voice that is kind of poor or maybe just not crisp and clear, right? There's some background crackling and you can tell the speaker is farther from the microphone, so it just doesn't sound that great. Then there is a very professional level human audio. Obviously a pretty nice microphone, absolutely no sounds in the background. Then the third is an AI voice, which you might notice is an AI voice. It sounds a little robotic and stiff. There's no breathing, there's no pauses. It sounds like a robot. And then the fourth one is what I would call a professional or high quality level AI voice. And it is great. Frankly, it is tough to distinguish whether it's AI or not. It is not robotic sounding. The emphasis is in the correct place. There are even breaths you can hear in the voice. So we had this video with 4 different versions of the voice and asked about 11 questions of each participant. We had about 800 participants in the survey. So we got quite a bit of data on this.
Okay. Well, since you just explained those voices, should we go ahead and we actually have the samples of those. Should we go ahead and listen to those now?
I think that would help give a lot of context. Yeah.
All right. So here we go.
Google search results can be a bit much. A simple question like, what is the best sunscreen, is full of ads and profit-driven biases.
Google's advanced search solves this. To begin, type in your search as you normally would.
Okay, so you can really hear the difference between those different qualities.
Your search
AI,
query will show up at the top.
One, which was the third one, really
you can
stood
add
out
additional
to me.
terms
The first
such as
audio,
toddlers.
human audio, is
Scroll
actually
down the
you can
page
tell
to
it's
domain.
background noise, white
to
noise.
see only
it's
research
not
findings
great.
from universities.
So,
Type in
you
.edu.
started looking at the data here, I feel like there's
Finally,
always
advanced search.
in research. There's always
When
something
reviewing
that
the search
got all your
results,
hypotheses,
you might find
things
more
that
trustworthy
you're thinking about,
answers
like,
from,
oh, this
say,
is
the
going to
Cancer
be.
Center at the University
I'm
of
curious,
Utah
out of the gate,
than from Amazon.
what was something that just like really surprised you in this study about the AI voices? Maybe that's something that was outside of what you hypothesized or what you expected. What was maybe one of the big, oh gosh, here we go.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think just in being so close to this, designing the study, watching the videos, listening to the audio over and over again before we even launched it, in my mind, I thought, well, it's pretty easy to tell the difference between these. You can tell the difference between the poor human, poor quality human and the high quality human. It's pretty easy to tell the difference between the poor quality AI and the high quality AI. But in actuality, it wasn't really that easy for people to tell the. There was a question later on that kind of asked them to identify whether the voice was created with AI or not. And I thought, well, obviously the ones that are created with AI people will say true. Yeah, it's obvious. It was not so obvious. Once you got to kind of the both the high quality human, the high quality AI voice, it was very difficult for people to distinguish whether it was AI voice or not. And actually, I think on both of those, almost 50% were just not sure. They just straight up said, I cannot tell if this is AI or not. Which to me surprised me because it felt like an AI voice, and probably also because I know the human that recorded the human audio and hear his voice often. So it's not really fair for me to say, well, of course I know that is Troy's voice because he recorded that. But I was very surprised that people could not tell the difference between, definitely both of those high quality audio examples.
So I guess that leads to me just thinking about that, right? Because if people are uncertain, if half the people are uncertain, right, about some of those, it sounds like that. And I want to be careful here because research never I put caveats on research all the time. Like research doesn't tell us what to do here. It just tells us it's informative, right? But it does seem to say you could start to think, hey, with this fact that people can't tell, there's either a need for disclosure that I should be informing people that this is maybe not a human, or it gives me a little bit of room to say, like, actually, I can feel more comfortable if I'm maybe uncomfortable with AI because people aren't going to notice the difference. It gives me some room to feel maybe a little bit better about that. So does that seem fair from your kind of, as you look at all the data, or should we be more careful here about like making assumptions?
I do think that makes sense. And, we talk about AI obviously a lot at work and, things that, and even my career profession about, what parts of your job can you use AI for and which ones are, is it not ready to replace a human or, just a program. And so we talk a lot about AI as a tool in your toolkit. So you should not probably be, outsourcing everything you're doing, especially in terms of video to AI, because the experience is, fake, which it is. It's not a human's voice. It is a computerized voice, whether it sounds like a human or not. But it is a tool in the toolkit. And I do think that there is room for disclosure, of course, because it is important to people to know whether it's AI, right? They maybe couldn't distinguish in this survey whether those high quality voices were artificial intelligence or not, but people do want to know, and people don't like being tricked. And if you pose something, or if you, pass off something as AI and you don't disclose that, I think it erodes the trust in your brand and in your video. And so if you're using it as a tool, in your toolkit, as I mentioned, for creating videos, it is important to disclose that. Our users do want to see that, especially we saw some differences in this survey. We did ask about, disclosure, and there were some differences with the German respondents, I believe, that were wanting that disclosure more frequently than people in, North America and other English speaking countries.
Yeah. So one of the other stats that came up as I was looking through this is that a lot of the people for the AI voices rated the voices as like high, like professional, right? High quality. I'm curious, even, and that even matches like the human quality, like it's professional on either side, high quality AI voice, high quality human voice. Um, Based on that, kind of looking at like people maybe didn't always be able to pull out whether it's AI or not. Plus, people thought it was really high quality or professional seeming, which I think is important for good instruction, good kind of whatever video you're doing. Um, are there any specific markers that like maybe signal high quality or professional voices to maybe learners or viewers of video today? And I know that's not in the study, so I'm putting you on the maybe on the spot a little.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, we didn't really focus on the professionalism aspects within the video, just whether, as a general rule, this video was professionally produced. And as Matt said, 92% of people felt like that high quality AI voice. Woo, this whole video is professionally produced. But as you mentioned, I have run a lot of other surveys since I've been here at TechSmith for 15 years. And one of those I go back to in this example is the video viewer study that we did in 2024. And in that study, I know some of you viewers and listeners know that that is focused more on viewer engagement and not necessarily professionalism. But those two things are pretty tightly tied. When a video is professional and there are aspects that make the learner or the viewer, watch the video and keep their attention, they're more likely to retain the information that they saw in that video. And so just thinking about that study, we did ask, what characteristics are important to a video? What characteristics keep you as a viewer engaged in a video? And the number one was audio quality. So I think that fits very nicely with the study we did here. And people know that audio quality is what keeps them engaged in the video, right? The difference between poor quality and high quality can be sometimes huge, right? With that background noise or with that mic that is either, low quality microphone, using your laptop mic sometimes can be challenging, or being a far distance away from that really can affect the professionalism and both the engagement of that video overall. So that is like the number one thing. There were some other things in that study also, like professional style, professional looking graphics like text overlays or lower thirds, like on the news, and other things like to keep their eyes on the screen, like mouse cursor movements and things like that, which we did not study in this AI video and voice study. But I would like to kind of test some of those things, later on to check and see if those things lead to more people thinking that, perceived professionalism of a video rather than just engagement overall.
Yeah, I love that. One thing that I think is really interesting to me about this study, because a lot of the work that I've done and people that I think listen to the Visual Lounge are in the world of learning, right? They're helping corporate learning. And I can't think of any of our other studies where, at least not, I've seen the research that you've done come out of, is that we're putting people in kind of the situation where like, you're going to watch this and then there's this pop quiz, right? Like, hey, did you actually learn and retain? Which is obviously a big deal if people are able to learn and retain from one style over the other. Was there something specifically you're trying to isolate in the study about learning or retention of kind of knowledge in what you did?
That was an interesting one for us too. I kind of sometimes we call those behind the scenes like put your money where your mouth is question, right? Because we're showing you a bit of information that we're hoping you didn't know. I personally am not a frequent user of Google Advanced Search, so that was a new topic for me. But like I mentioned at the beginning, we did debate for a long time about what the perfect topic would be, something that's not too simple, but not too hard, that people could learn something from. So we did show where to go in Google Advanced Search during the video. And of course, it was spoken aloud. Go here, click here. And then that video is 45 seconds. There were about 11 questions. And this pop quiz question was maybe number 7. It was more toward the second half. And there's no ability to go back in this survey, to go back and review any of the questions or go back and view that video again. So we were counting on the fact that they paid attention to that video at the beginning, retained that information through all the reading of the questions, and then got that question, correct. So it was multiple choice. We said, where do you go to find Google Advanced Search? Then there were 4 or 5 questions, and we tried to understand whether they remembered what they heard and what they saw in that video. And as it turns out that the video with the higher quality audio, for the most part, especially in the AI side, did lead to a higher percentage of people getting the correct answer. So that low quality AI and high quality AI actually both beat the human voice in that pop quiz question, which that's another thing that kind of surprised me. I kind of thought, the high qualities will beat the low qualities as a pair, but that wasn't true. It was the AI pair beat the human pair. So that's just another plus point for including AI if you have the knowledge and the ability in your videos, because people were paying more attention to that and did select the correct answer more often.
Now, I'm going to ask it, and I think this is going to be one of the things people are always going to ask when they look at the data is with that, what the research also, what the data showed as well is that the professional sounding human did slightly less well than the poor AI or the poor human quality, which is, like we just talked about the importance of good quality of voices and audio, right? So that was surprising to me. It's not a big, it wasn't a big, it was within a margin of error. I would assume, right? Just a couple points difference, but that really surprised me that the human professional quality sounding voice videos did a slightly less well than the poor quality human videos.
Yeah, and I don't have a direct answer for that because we don't know exactly why, but after looking at this data and kind of reviewing those videos and some of the open-ended comments, we kind of have a hypothesis, at least as a research team, that because the poor quality human voice was poor quality, people may have been straining or paying closer attention because the words were actually harder to hear than in those higher quality examples. It was further away, it was quieter. And so maybe in that they were paying closer attention, and that helped them kind of retain that information, or at least some of them retain that information a little further along the journey in the survey, and were able to correctly identify the answer there. Now, I would not recommend doing poor audio because of this and think that everyone is going to get 100% if you speak terribly. But that was kind of our hypothesis. Is you're right. It was in the margin of error, but it doesn't exactly match the perfect, upward graph that many of the other questions had.
Yeah. Well, I think it's always it's interesting to look at that, and it's one of those things that why one research study is never enough. That's why you got to keep doing things and looking at things. And speaking of research study, there's actually been a lot of various research over the year, and obviously AI voices have come a long way in the last year, 2 years, 5 years, right? And there has been suggestions about like, hey, you need a human-like social presence for deep learning. That's Richard Mayer, who does research, but some more recent research, Nazimi Dinsir, I hope I'm saying that right, suggested that maybe there's not as big as a difference in cognitive load when you've got modern AI voices. Obviously, when it sounds human, you think it's human kind of thing. Do you think there's an effective, anything in the research that's like about effectiveness of learning and retention that with AI that we haven't talked about already? Is there something else we should be considering? If I'm a practitioner out there and I'm looking at like, hey, do I want to use these high quality AI voices, whether it's through TechSmith products like what Audi offers from 11 Labs or some other tool that's offering high quality voices, anything else that we can do to bolster kind of retention or understanding from those? Or it's a lot I packed into that statement.
Yeah. I think that based on this research, if you're thinking about trying it, you should. That's basically the recommendation I would give from this, especially if it's a high quality AI voice. If you have the tool or the budget to select one of those, our research certainly showed that using a high quality AI voice did not hinder learning ability at all. As a matter of fact, looking at that pop quiz question, the percentage of people that got that question most correct were people who had listened to the high quality AI voice. So kind of the end of that scale, the top right, they had, the highest percentage correct answers. So if you're thinking about trying it, I think it's a good recommendation to give it a try. Obviously, for learners and for content creators, there are ways that you can measure that more specifically than when you are doing it in this, isolated study. But it is something that is worth trying, and it's certainly not going to turn off your audience unless we're talking about quality. Then that's a different situation. But AI as a blanket statement is not going to hinder your retention or your learning comprehension there.
Yeah, I feel like what this research does for me as a practitioner when I'm doing practitioner work is that it allows me that room to say, it's okay to try this. We're not going to ruin things. But obviously, every environment, every circumstance is a little bit different, and you got to the things that we were saying on the Visual Lounge all the time, know your audience, think about the outcomes you're going for, all those types of things still are in play. But it does give an encouragement that like this could be really effective. And particularly for certain types of videos where it feels like there's more opportunity that this makes sense, right? Things are changing all the time. You've got a video that's a instructional video that's a process that's going to update 3 times a year. Like an AI voice makes a lot more sense than maybe having someone have to go back into the studio to record. I am curious, Stephanie, as we get close to wrapping up here, you talked a little bit about kind of what your hopes are for future research. I want to go there again. I do want to note to our listeners, if you're still listening with this, we're going to meet again. Stephanie and I are going to talk again about the second half of this study, which was AI avatars, and what we found using the same process, but some different styles of avatars and approaches versus humans. But is there things that if you could, magic wand, do the more research in this area about AI voices, anything else that you would really love to be able to dig into?
Yeah, that's a great question because oftentimes when we complete a research project, we have more questions than we started with because it is inspirational to kind of get this information and say, well, what if we tried this or what if we did that? And so we oftentimes end up with another project right on the heels of one because there are so many more in-depth things we want to know. And I think for this one, learning more about, we talked earlier about, professionalism markers and engagement markers. I would like to kind of play around with that a little more, not necessarily in AI, but it could be related to changing things like the size of the mouse cursor. Does that lead to, higher professionalism or more engagement, right? The standard size or 2x or maybe 10x where they follow it around more. Or what if we add some soft music behind this video? Will that help keep them engaged better or make the video seem more professional if there are some aspects in the video enhancements that we could change that would help engage them, but also not distract from the actual learning and what you're showing on screen overall. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do that sometime in the first half of this year as well, because there are kind of endless possibilities for things you can enhance and change in there. So I think that would be really exciting.
Well, as you do any of that research, let me know, because I talk about this stuff all the time, and I've got hypotheses about some of those things based on what I've read. I would love to see that, and I love that TechSmith is willing to invest in these things because I benefit as a creator oftentimes from the research that we do, and helps me think better about our projects and the videos that we create. As we're about to wrap up, but anything in this study about the AI voices that we didn't cover that you feel like, gosh, people need to know about this? They might be in the report. Maybe it's something that didn't make the cut for the report.
Yeah, I talked about this very briefly at the beginning, but the thing that was probably most interesting to me was the indistinguishability of the high quality AI versus the human voices. So that tells me, and we talked about this too, that it's okay to try this tactic out as a part of your video creation strategy, as a tool that you're using. Try one video with a high quality AI voice versus, your own recording or your own, voiceover expert that you're using, just to see how it sounds and how it rolls. And if your viewers are more engaged and more, retained in terms of your content. So it's okay to do a little trial and error. And I think what the study tells us is that it's not, AI is not all bad, right? You hear, mixed things about AI just in all aspects of life nowadays, and some are positive, some are negative. But in this situation, you can give it a try and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work for you, then, go back to a high quality human voice. But it's certainly not going to hinder what you're doing by using AI. And people aren't necessarily turned off by it. There were a lot of positive comments in the we had an open-ended section here about AI in general and how if the voice sounded good, they, maybe didn't necessarily care that it was a human. As long as I'm getting the information I need, give it to me in the most pleasing way for my ears, basically. So I think it's worth a shot. That's basically my hot take there.
I love it. And it's most pleasing way for my ears. Sorry for everybody listening to this podcast who listens to me. I'm not an AI, and I apologize. It's not maybe as pleasing as you like. Well, Stephanie, this has been fantastic. I'm really looking forward to our conversation about avatars, because I know there's lots more. I think AI voices is a little bit more tame. People are a little bit more accepting. AI voices will be we'll get into some good stuff there. I do want to ask, I know we do a lot of research studies at TechSmith. If people wanted to be involved in something like that, or if maybe they want to reach out to you, whatever you feel comfortable with, what would you recommend can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have LinkedIn. If you'd like to personally connect with me on LinkedIn, it's Stephanie Warnoff. But if not, you can email. We have a research@techsmith.com. You can just go ahead and email that inbox. We can either get you added to our panel. There's a short form to learn a little bit more about you in order to get you selected for, future research studies. Honestly, we send probably 2 to 3 surveys every month all year long, and with interview projects and focus groups and different community type things all mixed in. So that is the best way to participate in future research with TechSmith, is go ahead and email that email address I mentioned, research@techsmith.com.
Perfect. And I will mention, I don't think we said it, maybe we did, but it's worth reiterating. Everyone in the research study that we just talked about, they were not customers of TechSmith, correct?
Correct. That is correct. They were what we call non-customers. So we use a panel provider. There are hundreds of these online to find people that are not currently using our tools. So it's not a study of TechSmith customers. It's a study of people who basically view videos like this, at least once a month.
Awesome. Well, Stephanie, we like to have our guests give us a quick wrap up. So Stephanie Warnoff, what is your final take?
My final take would just be that, explore AI. It's okay to give everything a try. And, using AI voices, using high quality can really increase the engagement and the professionalism of your videos. And if you want more learner retention in terms of the topics that you're talking about, the audio is quite important. So spend the extra time or a little bit of extra budget on that in order to kind of get the best video and the most professional video you can.
Perfect. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for joining me in the Visual Lounge.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt.
You bet. All right. So some really great stuff, and go check out the research report. We'll link to it down below, but there's so many great things about audio. And I love this approach that it opens up this opportunity to really start to digging in and not feeling like, oh gosh, AI audio, is going to ruin my project or not going to be good enough. It's not professional enough. And if you're looking for an AI voice provider, you might check out Audiate. If you're buying the individual license, we now have 11 labs. It's fantastic. Some amazing voices in there. I'm always impressed and blown away when I go and choose one. I'm like, wow, that's really good. And some other great options as well so lots of options in Audiate if you're looking for one, or there's lots of other great providers out there. But with that said, think about what your process, think about what you're doing. Obviously, AI is infusing itself into everything we do, so we got to keep talking about it. But we want you to make better videos. We want you to make videos that are effective for the job that you're hiring them to do. And we're so grateful for you listening. And we hope you take a little time to level up every single day. Thanks, everybody.